Greetings from the Two Men and a Duck Entertainment recording studio and home of the production of the Third Chair podcast on Thursday nights. Hi, tonight I want to talk about the idea of, are you a functional alcoholic? What? I thought an alcoholic was some guy like down on the street, lying in a ditch, drunk, can't move, has no job, no life, no home. And that's one type of alcoholic. That's about 9% of alcoholics in the United States. But tonight we're talking about a high-functioning alcoholic. Is that you? Well, what is a high-functioning alcoholic? Glad you asked. A high-functioning alcoholic is an alcoholic that has their work, home, social life basically together, even though they are drinking a lot. And it's the most common type, about 31% of all alcoholics in the United States. And my guess is that you wouldn't be watching this video tonight if you perhaps weren't wondering, hey, could I be a high-functioning alcoholic? Well, let's talk about some of the things that reveal a high-functioning alcoholic. So, typically, the typical example of a high-functioning alcoholic is a middle-aged man or woman with a stable home, stable work life, but they consume alcohol usually every day. They hide the problem well. They're successful at their career, and oftentimes the resources from their career helps them hide and cover up their drinking. They deal with stress from work and home by drinking, and they surround themselves with drinkers and attend functions with alcohol to hide their addiction. As a matter of fact, one of the key things is they really don't like going to any functions where there's no alcohol involved. You know, go to a play with no booze, they're not as interested. But go to a function with an open bar, they'll be there. So, what may be some signs you're a functional alcoholic? Well, one is you can't relax or enjoy yourself without alcohol. You've lost the ability to have fun and joy from everyday activities if there's not booze involved. Another one, and this is a very serious sign, is sometimes you wake up the next day and you can't remember exactly what went on the evening before. Now, these are blackouts, and sometimes we associate blackouts like with people totally passing out, but that's not necessarily the case. And if you're walking around with your cell phone wondering, oh my God, what is going to show up on social media about what I did that night, there's a chance you're a high-functioning alcoholic. Another one is you frequently make promises to yourself to stop, reduce, control, manage your drinking. But I want you to know something, and I know this to be true as I was a high-functioning alcoholic. People that don't have a problem with booze don't have these conversations with themselves. They don't walk around thinking, oh, I've got to manage, control, reduce, stop, set limits on my alcohol drinking. That's conversations people have when they know they have a problem. And the other thing, too, is that sometimes we think that alcoholism requires drinking every day. It can, but it doesn't. A more key concept is that once you start, you lose control. And so you may not drink for 3 or 4 days, but then when you do, all hell breaks loose and you don't know where it's going to end with how much booze. And so let's toss in a couple of other ideas. Another thing that may indicate that you're a functional or high-functioning alcoholic is that you begin to disqualify the opinions of others that are beginning to hit home. And so someone, you might say, my wife thinks I drink too much and she talks about it too much. But, she's only doing that because her father was an alcoholic and she sees everyone as an alcoholic. You begin to disqualify the opinion of people that know you. That may also be a sign that you're a high-functioning alcoholic. Here's another one of my favorites. I did this. You're sneak drinking. I remember when I would be home with my wife and I'd pour drinks. Mine would have 10 shots of booze and 3 ounces of mix, and hers would have 1 shot of booze and 12 ounces of mix. But we both just had a drink at the table. But I was sneak drinking. I was lying. I was being deceptive. And so if you are doing things like when you're going out to dinner and when your wife sneaks off to the restroom, you're shooting over to the bar to have a quick shot or two and then heading back to your table like nothing's happened. That's sneak drinking. Or you have a flask in your pocket, or a bottle in your car, or a bottle in your garage, or a bottle hidden in the house. This is all sneak drinking. And when you do that and you're not honest about how much you're drinking in front of people, you may be a high-functioning alcoholic. Now, another sign is that high-functioning alcoholics often like to drink alone. And it's not because they're unsociable people. They're often very merry. But it's because they don't have to deal with other people observing them and possibly bringing up that behavior or confronting them with that behavior. Like, wow, I saw you drink, I saw you drink a 13-ouncer last night, and having a discussion about it. On the other hand, they do enjoy social gatherings where alcohol is front and center, because then they just look like someone there at the party having fun. I remember at one party I had with some business people, I drank very heavily, and I was drinking with a friend of mine who was also drinking very heavily. We had matched large martinis, drink for 2 or 3 hours, and we both were pretty hammered. And I remember looking at him and thinking, man, you've got a drinking problem, without it even dawning on me, or me even considering the fact that I had a drinking problem. It's amazing how we can be in that state of mind. That's often called denial. And then, sometimes they do avoid public drinking where again, people can watch them and count drinks and confront them on their behavior. But if there's events where heavy drinking is expected, then they typically will go there. Now, another sign that you may be a high-functioning alcoholic is if you have a lot of tolerance. If you can build back, 5 or 6 shots of whiskey and you're not phased at all, and you're laughing at another person who's had 1 shot and is buzzed, then you may be a high-functioning alcoholic. You definitely, in order to have those kinds of tolerances, you are at least a moderate drinker and probably a heavy drinker. High-functioning alcoholics often drink every night to help cope with the stress of the day. High-functioning alcoholics also do something very interesting. They do what's called maintenance drinking to avoid withdrawal symptoms. And this is like taking little nips and partial shots during the day just so they don't go into alcoholic withdrawal. And so they're not trying to get drunk during the day, but they're just taking in enough to prevent withdrawal symptoms. If you're doing that, there's a high chance that you're a high-functioning alcoholic. Joking about your drinking too much. This is another one that I had not thought about very much. and that is a high-functioning alcoholic will often joke about drinking too much and getting wasted without realizing that most people that don't have a drinking problem don't joke about this. And so if you're joking about, oh, I've got a problem, I'm drinking too much, that may be your subconscious letting you know that you have a problem. And then high-functioning alcoholics often self-medicate to deal with anxiety, depression, stress, and pain. And, only you know the answer to that. Maybe you're popping a bunch of booze because you haven't gone to the doctor and got proper medication for those issues. And so, in summary, I have talked about some of the ideas of a high-functioning alcoholic. And I hope that if this is resonating with you, if this is ringing a bell, if you're thinking, oh man, this might be me, get checked out. There are plenty of doctors, addiction specialists, rehab centers, places where you can go to talk to people and get it checked out and get some help. Thank you, and I'll see you all next week.